everyone. We're going to get started. I see that we're still having folks come in, but hopefully they shouldn't miss too much. All right. So I'm going to turn my video on. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mitul Diane with GBH Education. Welcome to our webinar, Classroom Integration Stories, Teaching Earth and Space Phenomena Using Digital Media. So we are recording this session and we'll be sending out a link tomorrow to everyone who has registered. So if you aren't able to stay for the entire thing, don't worry. We will be sending this out along with slides from the presentation and a special resource doc that we pulled together. So only the presenters are on camera tonight and will have access to the mic. We do invite you to react and introduce yourselves in the chat and also to post any questions in the Q&A box. Both of these are going to be monitored by my colleague, Angelica, who should be in the crowd somewhere, and we'll do our best to respond to all of your questions. So this session is sponsored by GBH, formerly known as WGBH, Boston's public media station and the leader in producing award-winning shows like Nova, American Experience, Masterpiece, Arthur, and the latest Molly of Denali, along with a whole host of more. So this is just a quick overview of our agenda today. I'm just going to be giving you a quick overview of the webinar, what to expect. I will then pass the torch on to my colleague Sean, who will tell you a little bit more about our Bring the Universe to America's Classrooms collection. And then our teacher presenters will take it away and share their stories on how they've leveraged resources from this collection to inform their instruction. And then afterwards, I'll come back in and share some announcements with you. So here's a look at our lovely presenters. You'll be seeing them on camera tonight, but here's just a preview. And so PBS LearningMedia is, for those of you who haven't signed up, I encourage you to do so. It is a free platform filled with thousands of resources that are standards aligned for grades K through 12 students, as well as teachers. Anyone can access the site. You don't really have to sign in. However, we do encourage doing so just because there are a variety of things that you can do to really make full use of the site. And so now I'm going to pass this on to my colleague Sean, who is the Director of STEM Curriculum and Instruction, and she'll talk to you a little bit about our Bring the Universe to America's Classrooms collection.
Okay, thanks, Mitul. So this is a collection of resources that you can find on PBS LearningMedia called Bringing the Universe to America's Classrooms. Right now, it consists of almost 250 resources meant to address important Earth and space science topics for K through 12 students. We also have some new sub-collections coming out with focusing on waves and light and information transfer. So those collections will be populated over the next month or so. This project has been a collaboration with NASA and a lot of teacher advisors, dozens of teacher advisors who give us advice and answer our questions, test stuff out for us so that we can be sure that these resources will be useful to you. And 4 of these will be telling you some stories of how they use these resources tonight. The resources themselves are supplementary in nature, so this isn't a full-blown curriculum. It's meant to be used to integrate into your curriculum anytime you need to engage students in phenomena or have a little extra something to support your instruction. Next slide, please. The next slide, please. Thanks. Even though they're supplemental, they still come with some supports for you. For the teachers, there's background about the content and the media, and there are teaching tips and discussion questions that will give you some hopefully some inspiration as to how you might want to integrate it into your instruction. For the students, there are handouts, and for the K2 level, there are activities that accompany almost each media resource. In addition, this is a 508 compliant project, so we have a lot of accessibility features. All of the handouts are screen reader compatible, and all the videos are closed captioned. A lot of the videos also have descriptive video, and we have image descriptions as well. For the lesson plans, we have supports for English learners and for students who have special visual needs. And our big project right now is also to translate all of our resources into Spanish. We're a good way there, but not quite there. That will mean that all the resources are translated to Spanish, as well as all the student-facing handouts. So you can tell by that little yellow badge up there whether it's been translated or not. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the resources is we really want to take advantage of the nature of digital media to make Earth and space science phenomena accessible to students, because so many of them are just, you can't bring them into the classroom. They're too big, they're too far away, the time scales are off, and digital media allows you to engage in these phenomena in a lot of different ways, see them from multiple perspectives, see what's under the hood and see how they work. In addition, we want students to be able to engage in science and engineering practices using digital media. So I want to show you that you don't necessarily have to have hands-on activities in order to engage in the practices. Next slide, please. So these resources aren't meant to be passive experiences. It's not a, watch the video and tell me what happened. Students are supposed to be actively engaged with the media. They should be making observations, asking questions to drive the instruction, looking for evidence to support claims and arguments, and using the resources to collect and analyze data. Next slide, please. So what this is that we don't want the resources, they're not meant to be any explaining phenomena, but they're meant to provide opportunities for students to figure stuff out about those phenomena. And so this is really consistent with NGSS and even the nature of science. So that's all I have to say now. But now we are lucky enough to have 4 of our teacher advisors that talk to us tonight about how they have used some of these resources in their classroom. Hopefully you will find their stories inspiring. I should say first off is Liz to tell her story.
Hi, my name is Liz Vosi, and I'm an instructional technology specialist at Joseph DeMello Elementary School in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. And I started using these PBS LearningMedia materials, and particularly the Bringing the Universe into America's Classrooms materials, when I was a 5th grade teacher, before taking on this role as an instructional technology specialist. And what I found is that these videos, interactives, and lessons that are available through the BUAC just create an awesome shared experience of phenomena for our students. So as Sean was talking about, some of these phenomena, it's hard for anyone to experience, but then particularly for our students who have different backgrounds and understandings and experiences, they might not be able to go out and make a moon journal every night, or go and see the sunset somewhere every single night. They may have never seen different types of clouds. So to be able to use these resources, it creates a shared experience for all of our students to have a common place to start, observe something, and then that's the jumping off point for our discussion and our activities. So these 6 videos, or some of them are interactives, are ones that I've used in the past. And I want to kind of walk you through one specific use of them that we've found a lot of success with, and that's with HyperDocs. So last year I worked with some 3rd and 4th grade teachers, and this was actually before we even went remote. And we were developing HyperDocs that walks students through this process of first discovery, and then they're able to explore the concept a little more after that shared experience. Then they take some time to explain their understanding so far, but then comes the application where students really have a chance to apply what they've learned to a bigger picture and work together. And then the last kind of step in this process is a sharing out. So when these slides get sent out to you, these 2 are actually interactive. So when you click on it, you can get a copy of this blank HyperDoc, and each section will kind of explain it. And then this is a specific one that I want to show you today. It's a 5th grade, but it can also be adapted for younger grades, for the Earth's place in our solar system, or patterns in the sky HyperDocs. So this HyperDoc starts off with this PBS LearningMedia video. I sped it up a little bit. And it's 30 nights of sunsets over the course of 1 month. And let's start it here. So you can see the dates are down at the bottom where each of these photos was taken. And over the course of 30 days, we can see that the sun appears to be moving across the sky as it's setting. I think we get the gist. So in this HyperDoc, the students would start off by watching this video together. And when we actually launched this HyperDoc last year, we were in person. And then by the time we were wrapping it up, we had gone fully remote. And this served as a really great way for students to stay connected. And since HyperDocs, in this case, we're a Google district, so when we linked Google Classroom to our docs, teachers have access to be able to go in and comment on things, students can ask questions, and it's a great way to keep their learning on track and independent. And it also gives you a way to differentiate and create different access points. So we watched the video together and then talked about what we noticed and wondered. When we moved into the Explore, we actually used another PBS LearningMedia interactive where you examine how it appears that the sky moves, and hopefully come to explore and realize that it's the Earth that's moving. And then this Explain is another great tool that we were able to find on PBS, where students actually chart the sun's movement, well, the Earth's movement, but the way that the sun appears to move throughout the sky from sunrise to sunset. And they actually can take a screenshot of that finished image and put it in the Explain. And then they move into the application. And that's where we can really differentiate, add in student voice and choice, and let them find an activity that helps them show their understanding. We have a lot of students creating models. The claymation stop motion was very popular when we would do this in person. Moving to the remote world, students like to make Google slide videos, or even just video recordings or audio recordings of themselves. ChatterPix is another very popular tool where students can make pictures talk. And then finally, we always have a share at the end where students can really focus on the work that other students have done and get to share their experience and their learning. And then of course, with anything, there's always the students who really just want to learn more. They get so excited about the topic, they're so excited about their project. And so we add in this connect and extend at the end, and that lets those kiddos kind of dive deeper and explore more in the topics that they're interested in. So when you get these slides sent to you, there is available this blank hyperdoc template that you can use and this specific one, and it will make your own copy and you can edit it on your own. So I had a lot of success using all of these videos, but this one in particular helped us to build these hyperdocs. And another really great thing about the videos is, since they're through PBS LearningMedia, YouTube doesn't go through our firewall, so we're not able to show those videos. But the videos for our district that are hosted on PBS LearningMedia and the BUAC resources are able to be shared and viewed by our students at home and at school. So with that, I will pass the baton over to our next teacher.
So, well, thanks so much, Liz. That just looks fascinating. And it's really exciting to see that UDL built in there with the student choice around our resources. So we just love to see that. So next up is Kiara, and she's going to tell us about some weather and climate resources that she's used.
Yes, hello everyone. I am Kiara Reed, and I am a current third grade teacher at a charter school in Atlanta, Georgia. We have about 800 scholars. We are a K-8 school, serving, and all of our scholars receive 100% free lunch. And this year in my class, I'm currently serving our gifted and accelerated scholars for third grade. And this year we are 100% virtual, at least until January. Next slide, please. And I'll keep that in mind as I am sharing my presentation. All right, so I used this lesson, Investigating Seasonal Temperatures and Precipitation Variations, with my third grade class this year. And so this was really cool to use because last year in second grade, and you'll hear me refer back to that because I did loop up with my scholars this year. But last year in second grade, we learned about why we have seasons. And so this lesson was connected very well to that, and it was able to build off of what they knew already about seasons. And so we were doing a lesson in science, in social studies that, science and social studies actually, that was obtain, evaluate, and communicate information about different habitats and regions. And so since I do have the accelerated class, I really use PBS LearningMedia to extend the learning. And so even though we weren't specifically looking at weather patterns in these regions, I did connect that into their learning just because it connected perfectly, and it really connected to scholars' lives. And they were very interested in seeing, they were like, wait, there are different rainfall amounts and different amounts of sunlight, just all those things, just really questioning when I presented these materials to them. And so, like I said, I extended the knowledge to weather patterns in the different regions, and it really got them connected. And so they also wanted to extend it not only from Georgia, but also to the rest of the United States. And then, of course, they started questioning, well, what about the other parts of the world, things like that. And so that all came from using PBS LearningMedia to supplement the curriculum that we were already doing. Next slide, please. And so I also really enjoy using the resources from PBS LearningMedia because it integrates well with different content areas. And so some of the activities that we were doing through this lesson included plotting and interpreting data on different charts or different graphs. And so that connects directly to math, and the scholars were able to use their understanding of graphs and evaluating the data, or analyzing the data right in science. And I really like that just because I don't like to teach in isolation. And so the scholars are just making connections and using things that they, using understanding that they picked up in math and using it in the science class. We also connected this to ELA with claim and reasoning. And even if we hadn't directly taught those skills yet, scholars were picking up on it very easily. again, with the resources from PBS LearningMedia. It's all right there when you click into the lesson plan. So yeah, and then with social studies, also connecting it, how do you think weather played a role in where Native Americans lived and where Europeans settled? Just again, extending the learning. And we did a maps unit, so we also connected that in as well, because the weather charts and all of that, it was just a different type of map, and scholars had seen like elevation maps, things like that, and they were able to just transfer that understanding over to reading weather maps. So that was super cool as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, so overall, some things that I really think are useful to remember when you are using PBS LearningMedia is that it can be integrated into Google Classroom. So there is an icon that is on the page, and so you just connect your Google Classroom to the PBS LearningMedia website. And so all of the scholars, instead of downloading the PDF and having to upload it, or even only doing the assignments in class or only viewing the videos in class, you can give your scholars the possibility to do all of that at home. And so once you connect the assignment to Google Classroom, scholars are able to go in and they don't have to have another login. They use their Google account, if that's what you're using, to use those resources. The lesson plans do give you a suggested time limit, but I definitely do break this up into multiple days, especially with virtual learning. What I found is that there's no way to really do full lessons like we would do in the classroom online. And so we're really just chunking. And so that's what's helped for me. Something else, there are some great questions in the lesson plans as well. And then also what I've learned is that scholars, they will have questions as well that add to the learning. And so it definitely hooks the scholars, but the questions are there for you. So you're not having to think of how does this connect, or what's the phenomena that I'm trying to describe here. It's there, and then it's explained for you. There are many ELL resources, and also there are connected resources to remediate or extend. And so once you log onto the site, there are some suggested materials that will be on the side. So if you're looking at third grade material, there will be resources from K2 that may also apply to the standards that you're addressing. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that it's definitely hands-on when you're in the classroom, just allowing scholars to research, to really dig deep and just explore their own questions and explore the world around them. And also, it's definitely, you can make this culturally relevant and connected to your scholars' lives for sure. And I know that that's a huge point, just because sometimes science standards can be just so big to understand, but PBS LearningMedia resources definitely allow scholars to have an entry point to the learning. And so I've had great success with using these, like I said, in my second grade class last year, and I'm still using them this year. And I hope that you all are able to find value in using these resources as well. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kiera. We really appreciate the stories about the creative ways of bringing in the seasonal weather patterns. I love hearing about interdisciplinary instruction. And also thanks for mentioning that all our resources are compatible with Google Classroom. They're also compatible with Schoology as well. So next up we have Caroline, who is going to tell us about how she used resources or resources about the sun heating the earth.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. My name is Caroline Singler, and I teach 9th grade earth science at Lincoln Sudbury regional high school. We're a suburban high school in Eastern Massachusetts. We have the great fortune in our district to be supported in teaching earth science to all of our ninth graders. And while they've had a lot of earth science as they've moved up through school, what I found by the time they get to ninth grade is they kind of think they know what they need to know, and yet there is a lot that they still need to learn in terms of how to think and use data. And so we really try to emphasize the skill building part of earth science, looking at patterns, looking at big picture kinds of situations, analyzing data, incorporating real world data. And so the PBS LearningMedia resources were a great find for me, and I was especially excited about the bringing the universe to America's classroom resources, because to find something that was digital media that was earth science focused can be kind of challenging, and it's got all different grade levels and ability levels and great support materials. Particularly in our earth science curriculum, we have a really strong focus on energy and how it's transferred through different earth systems and trying to interconnect them that way. And so I found a lot of useful resources in the PBS collection. Next slide, please. So the resource that I want to talk to you about tonight is called Insulation on Earth. And I discovered this one last year when I was getting ready to do my energy unit a little bit differently, and we were having the students build solar hot water heaters as kind of a culminating activity. And I wanted to review and activate their prior knowledge about seasons and also see where their misconceptions were, but I wanted to do it in a little bit different way than we had done it in the past. So I was looking for a resource that was something different than just the animations that show the Earth going around the sun and the different angles of sunlight striking different latitudes at different times of year. I want them to know that, but I wanted them to be able to look at things a little bit differently. And this one I found to be a great resource because, first of all, as soon as you look at it, it's like, wow, there's this great visual impact of all the color on the slides, but also the focus is on the incoming solar radiation. So really taking that approach to what energy is coming in from the sun and then how it's striking different places on the Earth's surface differently and how it then changes over the course of the year. So when you go into this particular resource, you start with all the maps for 12 months of the year, and then they can page through each map for each individual month. And what I asked my students to do was to just sit down in a small group and go through the resource and just look for patterns and look for things that maybe looked unusual to them, things that they expected, things that they didn't expect, try to pick a few different places on the Earth and focus in on them and how they change over the year. And really what I used this for was just a discussion starter. Just to see what they could notice completely on their own. I gave them a few little guiding questions, but I just wanted to see what they could pull out of it on their own. Next slide, please. So again, as I said before, kind of a new perspective, looking at the incoming solar radiation, not so much focusing on what surfaces heat up differently, although that certainly is another big emphasis that we had. I wanted them to not be so focused on like facts and figures and memorizing the dates that go along with the seasons, and just think more about the big picture and the impact that incoming radiation might have on a particular place on the Earth, because as they were planning to build their hot water heaters, they really had to then think about, where am I and what design is going to work at one location compared to someplace else. This particular resource, and really all of the resources that I've found in the PBS collection, are really good in terms of allowing students to make observations, but then make inferences from their observations. This is something that I think also works really well if you're familiar with the question formulation technique, just putting an image or two up there and letting them start to ask questions and then lead into some valuable discussion about what they see and what they notice when they look at the maps. Next slide, please. So as I was just saying, you could pop up just a couple of maps and say, you know, compare and contrast, look at the polar regions, look at the equatorial regions, look at our latitudes, look at other places around the world. They could kind of pick any place that they wanted and try to make the assessment over the course of the year of how things changed, and then start to think about why those changes were happening. Last slide, please. And I use this in collaboration with the Sun Heats Earth resource. And this one shows actually a rotating globe that is actually showing the different heating of different types of surfaces. And you can actually look at the rotating globe, or you can look at a flat map and compare data as well. So one of the things that I found with this collection is that every time I go into it, I find a new resource that I want to use and incorporate. And so I've been giving students like supplemental references and saying, you know, if you want to try this one instead of the one that I gave you, or if you want a little more information, you can go a little bit further. They all come with really good background readings that I found to be very age appropriate in terms of the reading level, providing some supplemental background information, a little bit more than what they might get in their textbook, to, you know, kind of help them pull things together. But really, bottom line is that these are just great visualizations that allow students' imaginations to kind of take over. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Caroline. That was a great example of one, those resources. She's a high school teacher, and those are middle school resources. So make sure you check out not just your grade band, but other grade bands as well, because you might find something that's useful for you. And also, even though these resources are kind of individual and standalone, they can be pieced together to make larger learning experiences, or you can use multiple resources together in a lesson. So now for our last teacher, we have Eric, who's going to tell us about how he uses our resources on ocean currents.
Thank you. To just give you guys a little bit of background on how I do my implementation, I teach at Tucson High School in Tucson, Arizona. We're a 50% free and reduced lunch school with a large ELL population. And I picked this lesson because I helped pilot it, and I really got to see it change over time. And in the past, we've been using computer carts, and now that we're doing online work, we are moving to one-to-one, which does kind of change how you can implement things. Next slide, please. And this is how I like to kind of start off my class with the material. This is one of the animations that's in the collection. And I put it up on the overhead, and I just let it run without really saying anything in the beginning, so that the kids get to look at it and kind of wonder, because a lot of this ocean stuff really is quite new for them. And you get a nice long video here, and the resource has a bunch of little snapshots showing specific ocean currents, so you can adapt it and talk about other things that are going on around the world. Next slide, please. And from the student perspectives, Tucson is completely landlocked. So kind of thinking about ocean currents at all is new and different for them. So I use these resources to bring it to life so that they can really see what's going on with there. And these kind of data visualizations are a great phenomenon that the students can connect to. Included in the lesson plan are not just the video that I showed you, but you see one where they have heat and a direction vector in the picture there. So they really get a lot of information that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get from like a spreadsheet or what I had to read when I was learning all of this. Next slide, please. And it also comes with scaffolding and supports. One of my favorite things is there's different ways to show understanding included in the lesson plan. So there's one thing where the students have to draw on a map where they have different levels of salinity or density in the water, as well as short answers that they would have to write out. And it now has English language supports, which helps me tremendously with the class. And as other presenters were saying, you modify it and adapt it for yourself. I would break into discuss in small groups periodically throughout. So it's not just a one-off 40-minute lesson plan, but we keep coming back and working the same ideas to get a little bit more understanding out of it. Next slide, please. And my particular takeaways, the background reading is great for me, but the students still need some more background information to understand ocean currents. But this is a great way to use models for all of them. In Tucson, we have a real strong El Nino, La Nina cycle going on, but trying to tell them out of the gate that it's because water east of Australia is hot doesn't really help them at all. But once they see this, they can kind of understand how the models work. And it really gets them to evaluate and communicate information. They have to share out ideas, and it really sparks discussions between the students as they're learning the information. And it's a great way to anchor what are otherwise really abstract concepts for the kids to work with. And since I helped pilot it, it's become my new gold standard for integrating digital resources in the classroom, because it's not just a textbook with a video in there. They have to really engage with the content and work with it. And one of the questions that popped up before we started was teachers wanted to know what they could do outside of classroom time. So there's some great asynchronous lesson possibilities, and the ocean circulation in the North Atlantic is an interactive lesson. So if you're signed up and you get the students signed up onto PBS LearningMedia, then you have access to their responses and you can see it as they're trickling in and working on their own time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Eric. It was great to hear how you make ocean phenomena accessible to your desert students. And thanks to all of you. We really appreciate you taking your time this evening and before that to prepare for this talk, because I know it's a really busy time for you at the beginning of the year. Before we get on to questions though, I do have one kind of request here that any third grade teachers out there, we are planning a research study, and we are on our climate and weather lesson plans that Kira was talking about. And we want to test our, in particular, our resources for English learners. So if you are out there interested in participating in a research study and have at least 20% English learners, please contact me if you might be interested in participating in a research study. Thanks, and I'll turn you back to Mitul.
Hello, everyone. It's me again. So I hope that you had a wonderful time listening to our presenters and will be able to come away inspired and found resources to help you with your classroom instruction. Just very quickly, if you are interested in getting a certificate for participating for this webinar, we encourage you to fill out our survey. At the end of the survey, you'll be given a link to download the certificate. And even if you are not looking for a certificate, we do encourage you to help us improve by filling out the survey, and that will ultimately help us create better programming for you. So if you are looking for more digital media resources plus professional development resources, I encourage you to visit the GBH Education YouTube page. On this page, you'll find recordings of past webinars, and those recordings will also include descriptions that'll lead you to resource documents, slides, and any other thing that you would need to make the most of it. It's almost as if you were right there. And so if you head over to our page, you'll find different topics. You'll also find different kinds of helpful tips, like integrating your account with Google Classrooms. So feel free to check it out, and view as many videos as you want. And finally, I want to conclude with a huge thank you to our presenters, and to encourage you all to follow us on social media. We're always posting different kinds of resources for you to use, different interesting articles that you should be paying attention to. So it's a great way to stay connected and get access to even more content that we put out. And with that, I want to thank you all so much for joining us, and I hope that you had a wonderful time listening to our presentation. I'm going to leave the chat box open for a little bit so that we can answer any pressing questions that you have, or if you would like to just chat amongst yourselves. And in about 5 or 10 minutes or so, I'll close out the program.